This versus video is sponsored by Brilliant. If you want to see one of the coolest bits of smart home tech, be sure to stay tuned. Welcome to my house, internet. So as you look around my house, know that this is where anything wireless comes to die. For some reason, I get no cell service here on any carrier. When I step outside, it's fine. And any Wi-Fi system I've tried to set up has not worked very well. I use AT&T Uverse. I'm supposed to be getting gigabit speeds, but I don't get anything close to that. So we're going to try to find a solution today. We're gonna use two different options. We're gonna use an enterprise solution, and we're gonna try what we consider kind of the leading mesh system with Eero, and see what's going to be the easiest to install, and also give us the best combination of speed and also just simplicity. So let's give it a shot, hopefully find a solution, because I gotta get my stream on. So mesh is generally up my alley because it's pretty easy and seamless to set up. There are a bunch of mesh options. I've tried most of them, but I wanted to give what we thought was the best representation of mesh. So we took Wirecutter's example of what they recommended. They recommended Orbi and Eero, which we have here, and we went with Eero for the test because it has 3 access points instead of 2. That comes with Orbi. So this stuff is for the enterprise. It's by Ubiquiti. I don't really know what any of it does, so we brought in Robert, a networking guy, to kind of explain it and hold my hand through it all.
All right, so what we've got here are some products from Ubiquiti. They are a company that provide basically access points for stadiums and super large office buildings. And more people are starting to take like this pro-end gear and put it in their homes because they find that it actually works really well. I've been a fan of Ubiquiti for a while, so I decided that John needed a little Ubiquiti in his home. So what we're using are 2 different products. The first is kind of this massive Unify AC-HD. These are like actually made for like super big office buildings or stadiums, very high dense places. And then to kind of fill in where these 2 can't, are going to be these. We have 3 of these little in-wall access points, and they can kind of fill in kind of some of the dead zones in spare bedrooms, just to kind of fill in the gap and provide him with really fair, even, and fast coverage.
So like water and air, price matters, and Eero is way less expensive. You can start getting into Eero for about 149 bucks and then build up from there, depending on how many mesh points you want and what you want to add in. Also of note, Amazon actually just gobbled up Eero like it's a delicious snack treat. So there might be some privacy concerns with what Amazon can do with your data and what they can see. Amazon's trying to say like, don't sweat it, we're not looking at your stuff, but you guys can make the final judgment, but I wanted you to at least know about it. So like Eero, the Unify is also modular. You can spec it out as high as you want. If you want to match what we have here though, it's definitely not on the cheap side with the access points, the PoE switch, and the cloud key. It's gonna cost you well over $1,000. So one of the reasons that I wanted to get my internet working at pretty consistent speeds was I wanted to step up my smart home game. And one product I've been taking a look at and looking at for a while is this guy, Brilliant, which is brilliant. Does a ton of awesome things, and I do want to give them a shout out and a thank you for sponsoring this video. So this beautiful looking screen is actually a smart light switch. Check it out. So yeah, you can turn lights on and off. I could dim them. It'll turn pretty much any dumb bulb into a smart bulb, but it does way more than just that. Go ahead and tap the screen, you get a lot more controls here. So let me show you something cool. Hey Alexa, what's the weather tomorrow? It'll also interface with a bunch of other smart home stuff here. So I've got it set up with my Nest thermostats. If I hit climate, I can see both of my thermostats right here, and I can control them, like I could if I was standing at the Nest, which is pretty cool. Integrates with a lot of other smart home options as well. Sonos, Hue, if you got a Ring doorbell, who's ever ringing your doorbell will show up here. Obviously it works with Amazon's slew of products. Setup was also really simple. If you ever installed a light switch, it's pretty much the same process. And all the setup is done on the light switch itself. So we've got the 1 switch here, but depending on your setup at home, Brilliant also offers versions that have 2, 3, and even 4 switch options. We'll link to them down below if you want to check out Brilliant. If you want to set up 1 light switch, 2 or 3, or even more, they got a ton of different options to hopefully work for you guys. So setting up Eero is completely idiot proof, and I can be the idiot that is proving that. It is a few simple steps. Honestly, you take it out of the box, you plug the thing into power, you take an Ethernet cable from your modem, And that's almost the rest of it. The app handles absolutely everything else. For the other ones, you don't even have to hardwire them in. You could choose to if you want, but plug them into power. The app will even tell you if you placed it well. It'll ask you some questions on the size of your house, and that's really it.
Technically, you can set up all this equipment through the UiFi mobile app on Android or iOS, but to really get the most out of your hard-earned money and investment into the system, you're gonna wanna run the UiFi controller software basically 24/7. It can run on Windows, Mac, Linux, or even in the cloud. You're just gonna need some kind of computer or server to run this 24/7 to be able to get all the real-time data, to be able to make all of these fine-tune adjustments and tweaks to really get the system working as it should be. So the UiFi controller looks a little bit overwhelming and complicated, and it doesn't have to be necessarily, but there is a lot in here to unpack. There's a bunch of different settings, both simple and advanced, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could potentially mess things up. Though with a little bit of time and research, you can really get in here and dial in the settings to work absolutely perfect for the environment you have these things set up in. But I do have to say that while Eero was like a 4-step process and took all of 15 minutes, UiFi is not nearly that simple. I'd say UiFi is like a 25-step process, as you can see here. There was a lot that needed to be done to get this all up and running, and it wasn't just a one-person or one-day job. Our producer Ralph and I worked for multiple days to get all the settings tweaked and everything just right. Another point to make is also that there's a little bit of installation for the actual units. You can technically just throw the access points anywhere. They can just sit atop a stand or something, but for the in-wall units, they do require a voltage of power through a network jack that you already own. So you're going to want to uninstall the plate, basically plug the in-wall unit in. It's going to receive that voltage of power from a PoE switch and you're good to go. It's not super hard to do, but it does take a little bit of time. So do a lot for a little bit of time to get these things placed and also set up and configured. So once you get everything dialed in, all those settings tweaked and the in-wall units installed, you can kind of just set it and forget it. You do have the option to jump back into the controller at any time and fine tweak settings and see some real-time data, but if you don't want to, you don't have to, but you do have that option available to you.
So the Eero, when hardwired in, can theoretically do gigabit speeds, but if you do it wirelessly, it's got a max of like 600. But just to see like what our baseline is, I did want to see what the hardwired speeds were, so at least we could see what the best the Eero could conceivably get us. Wired in, I didn't quite get the gigabit speeds I'm paying for, it was pretty decent. I got 753 down and about 853 up. But that's in an ideal world, which I clearly know we do not live in, but let's check speed test and see how it really does. So the speed tests are in, let's go to the results. So as you can see, Eero's pretty good. It actually was a lot better than I expected, especially when it considered its handling sort of gigabit speeds. Ease of use was incredible. The setup took minutes and it was working pretty much out of the box. So on the UiFi side, the speeds were definitely better. So the money was well spent. The time though and the commitment it took to get that working was way more than I expected. So the final decision is going to be what you want to do and what the speeds are in your house. UiFi was absolutely awesome. The speeds were pretty much double what I was getting with the Eero system. So for me, I'm going with the UiFi system, but there's a big caveat there. You may not have gigabit speeds. If you've got something slower or you're at 100 around there, you'll probably get those true speeds with the Eero, in which case it is not worth spending the extra money for the UiFi. But if you've got those faster speeds, I would say anything faster than probably 400 or 500, the chance of you actually getting those speeds all around your apartment or house with Eero are probably less than you would get if you went the pro route with something like UiFi. For me, UiFi was worth it because of what I do. But if all you're doing is streaming and playing some games, the Eero system would be absolutely perfect. I liked learning about networking. It was a cool opportunity for me to try to learn and have somebody that I could ask and that could teach me how to do it. If you don't have that, go Eero. I don't think you're gonna be disappointed either way.